Okay, we're done the game here. Here are our game totals and points. The Axis did very well. Japan had 6, Germany had 3, Italy had 3 for a total of 12. Anzac, the French, the US, FEC, and Britain all combined for a total of 4. And Russia had a total of 4. One of those was I only know this because it's what I was doing there, but one of those was the border troops. And that was a surprise move I made at the end there, attacking into Mongolia and changing the shape of the border so you get more guys on the border. And the other 3 were places worth of point value that weren't part of my other points. So I got 4 out of, I think it was 18. Axis got 12 out of 18, and the Allies got 4 out of 18. So, we got one clear winner, and the 2 losers didn't even tie the winners. So, there you go. So, yeah, that was a lot of fun. But we were playing with the oil wars, and I don't know if it was either the oil wars that was broken, or we realized that in the first few turns here, everybody was conserving oil, right? Like the British were only making a few oil. So if you didn't need to move a capital ship, you just didn't, right? If you didn't need to move any other navy, you didn't. If you didn't need to fly a plane, you didn't. If you didn't need to move any ground troops, you didn't. And you're only making half of what your derricks made. But if you didn't use any oil, you were banking it up, and you bank it up, and you bank it up. Well, if you bank up your oil for 5 turns, then you're good, right? Then then you can spend 3 or 4 turns burning your oil, and it doesn't even matter. So there you go. And yeah, the oil didn't even. There was a couple times when the oil might have been a factor, but through the game here, Germany was never down and out. And it was making 4 synthetics out of these things, plus 1 out of this derrick here, and then it was making 3 out of this one here. Like the most you could burn was 6, and it was making 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? So it was literally up 3 oil every turn, even if it used everything. And if you don't have a capital ship, you're saving an oil. If you don't have a strategic bomber, you're saving an oil. If you don't move a navy around, you're saving an oil. So as you can see, like these are 10 counters, right? We got to a point like 4 or 5 turns ago where we just stopped adding up the oil because we had 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 75, and the oil stockpiled in Germany. Like there's no point in going on anymore. Britain about 6 turns ago got a lend-lease of 30 oil or 12 oil or something like that from the Americans, and the Americans haven't even been keeping track of how much oil they have for the last 5 turns. They haven't lend-leased any to anybody, except for the France, who's got an insane glut of oil and has been struggling to use it. So as you can see, France has got that, or had that stockpile there, and they have built another one way down there. There's like no point to it. It got to a point where it didn't matter, right? When Russia was at war, it made 7. I used 4, or I used 3 every turn if I used my aircraft and my land units and moved my navy around, and then I used the 4th one because I'm at war, and then I stockpiled 3 every turn once I was at war. So I never did lose these derricks, and every turn Russia was going up 3 oil instead of down. I haven't actually added an oil since about 1942 or so. 7 or 8 turns, because every turn I'd use them and then I'd gain some. The only time it was an issue is when I was not at war and I was making 4, which was half of my oil, and I was forced with the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact to sell 3 to Germany. That's part of why Germany's got so freaking many over there. Because I had to sell them, so I only collected 1, right? And if I moved anything that required oil. But I mean, even then, right? I mean, I had so much stockpiled in the previous turns, and 4 a turn before 1939, that it didn't really matter. I had 6 turns of stockpiling. And yeah, I mean, I had 4 a turn, right? 4, 8, 12, 16, I mean, you just keep on going. And then when you need to start using them, well, I'm only using 3 or 4 a turn, so You know, it takes me many turns to catch up, but if I'm making more than I'm using. So, I mean, I like the oil. It was simple. It was easy to use. All that stuff. I just think that the reserves were too easy to keep. There was never an issue of not having enough oil. The one time that it seemed like it might have been an issue was for Japan, but in the first 2 or 3 turns it delayed its attack on China, specifically just so it could stockpile 3 oil from US and then 3 oil from US, and then I think it was 2 or 3 turns, and then attacked China and it got 2 oil from the US, and then attacked China again and it got 1 oil from the US, and then on the 3rd attack it stopped getting free oil from the US. But in the process it gobbled up an oil reserve here, and there was an oil reserve in communist China. We just moved the chip because we needed it somewhere else. And it gobbled up an oil reserve here, and there was another large oil reserve there. And then there was one in, I can't remember if it was Siam or French Indochina, and it gobbled that one up. Like, I thought they would need to go into the Dutch East Indies, but they didn't need to at all. And then when they needed oil, they just asked for some oil in Germany with this giant stack of oil, lend-lease of a stack of oil. I think it was half their income's worth, so like 25 oil or something like that. And then Japan didn't need to give a crap about oil for a long time. So it didn't matter. Oil for the US was never an issue, because with the rules that never is an issue, they don't even use oil. The only time that oil was kind of an issue was for Britain with losing neutrality of Iraq and southern Iran, so Britain kept coming in here for it. But they really didn't have to, because once Japan and Italy were at war, the US could have lend-leased them 6 oil a turn. And if they moved a capital ship, regular ships, and we're at war and all that stuff, the most they could use is 6 a turn. So it wouldn't even matter. So yeah, I was hoping it would be more of an issue, but I think there needs to be a little tweak on the rules, either that there's less reserves available in the world, and the rules where they say you have to divide the oil evenly through your home country. I mean, well, that makes sense in Russia, right? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 in the home country. I mean, I just used the ones out of the edges so that it's stockpiled in the middle. But I mean, if you're Britain, the only home country is here, so all the oil gets stockpiled here, right? So if somebody takes Cairo, you're not putting any more in there because it's not your home country, so it's empty, right? Same with Germany, right? All their oil was going here. And they have all these oil stockpiles that they've picked up along the way, right? And they just used those up. And then, you know, this one just kept growing at home. So, I mean, they were making synthetic oil at all 4 of these. And they didn't even need that oil, so they were just throwing that in the bank. I think Germany was making 4 more a turn than it was using if it used everything. It was ridiculous. Plus, I kept selling them oil in the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, which was 3 a turn he didn't need at all. In fact, he would probably have preferred not to be doing that. So, you know, it was easy, simple to use, whatever, but I think we might need to house rule a couple things, like maybe make it so that armor class uses an oil, and artillery class uses an oil, and infantry class stuff like motorized or whatever also uses an oil. Just because it was getting to the point where nobody could even, we were never going to run out of oil. In fact, everybody just agreed to stop using oil today, because there was no point. We had so much stockpile from yesterday that nobody was going to run out if we never collected an oil and used it all day. You know, we all had about 5 turns with the oil stockpiled, and it didn't matter. We could make it to the end without collecting. So there was that. I mean, it might have been an issue if somebody came in and stole your whole stockpile, but yeah. All right, what other things do we have in here? We had the commanders. That was a really, really, really intuitive, basic, simple rule set that seriously changed the game. I mean, you know, these commanders they're really basic. You know, kind of looks like a guy is holding his arms behind his back, or you know, maybe he's scratching his butt. It's hard to tell, but he's just, you know, he's the guy with no gun. Obvious. separate from everything else. And he basically just gives you a +1 on everything, right? And like all the rules, you can only get one modifier at a time. So if you get a mountain bonus or a city bonus, then he doesn't give you an extra bonus on top. You can't stock 3 commanders together and get +1, +2, +3, right? So, but it did make an issue, or it did seriously affect the game a little bit. So the guy who had a commander in a battle, if it was a large battle with lots of stuff, could boost up the stats on those things, right? So either an attack or defense. And it you know, if you were smart, you had a commander on the border in a spot where you thought you were going to get attacked. And sometimes you get attacked beside the commander because it was better odds, or, you know, you wouldn't attack there without your commander, so you'd attack somewhere else because that's where the commander was. The only issue I had is that the commander could only combat move 1 space. So if your army blitzed forward, the commander was never able to catch up unless your army stopped blitzing. Right? It would have been nice if the commander can't follow the blitz, right? So it would have been nice if the commander could have, say, moved 2 moves, which is the equivalent of, say, a mechanized or a tank or a towed artillery or something, right? I mean, that would have been realistic. The fact that they could only move 1, not very realistic. And yeah, another little rule there. I know I mentioned in the other video, but if a commander died in one location, immediately he rolls to see if he survives, and then he can retreat and go to any other place within 4 spaces, including the place that the troops are going to blitz to. Very handy, and it is realistic, right? I mean, if you're the commander in a war and you have to retreat, and your forces got wiped out and they're still coming, where would you go? You would go to the place that they were coming and your defenses were. Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. It took me by surprise, but once we read the rules and started thinking about it logically, yes, you know what? I mean, I was just a little bit choked because I'm like, oh, what? No, my odds went down. But you know what? It makes perfect sense, and yeah, I totally agree with that. All right, what other rules were we doing? We're doing these elite fighter squadrons here. Most of them aren't on the map anymore because a lot of them got wiped out in the last couple turns here. But you can see a couple of these guys, like what are these? The Night Witches. And what's this one here? 76 Fighter Wing. I think that was a ZG. That's a German one. You know, there's quite a few of them, and they're really cool. They certainly added something to the game. I know we didn't use them the way it was intended, but you know, that was all right. Another thing that was going on is I was looking at the rules for the SS. There was another expansion we had going on, and General Hangard brilliantly put together this the cut and paste version, I think it is, of all the little SS things that are spread out in the book. Because take a look in the book. I'm trying to see where they are. I'm just gonna pull up the book here and show you what the book looks like here. Because I mean, it's okay, but you know, here you go. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then you gotta go to the next page and you find these guys and whatever. Then you gotta flip through a couple more pages, and then you got more pages, right? So, I mean, that's okay, but there's so many pages you're never gonna remember any of this stuff. So we put it together in this nice sheet. I know he uses that like menu board or stuff, the Neverterror, I think it is, or something. It's excellent stuff, right? This was like his Bible. Every turn he was looking through this in advance, so because you know there's a few things he had to do, right? Because in order to get this one, he had to pay $1 to put the 25th SS marker beneath the mechanized infantry in Hungary, right? So he had to have a mech in Hungary, and then it would cost him $1, right? So there was a lot of, you know, where do I put, you know, he was doing non-combat moves that weren't so much, weren't always just about strategic value, but they were also about making sure that he had the guy in the right place at the right time in order to get stuff, right? Because there's a few of these where you know certain things have to happen, But you know, on the turn that you do this, but most of these were a little more open. But you know, there we go. It was pretty good, and yeah, it didn't detract anything from the game, and it wasn't like the Work Plan Z where it forced you into doing this stuff. Like it was optional, right? If he didn't want to spend $1 on that thing, he didn't have to, right? Where Work Plan Z, I was stuck. Last game we were playing together, $12 a turn until you build all these ships. It's like I need to attack Russia, but I have to build all this navy. You know what I mean? Or else I throw all this money away if I stop building the navy. So you know, War Plan Z was good, but the mandatory expenditure per turn was a negative, right? I mean, I would use the sculpts from War Plan Z. I would use the extra rules that come with it and whatever, but I would not use the plan. The plan is bunk. If you use the plan, you better have a game where Russia is going to be some pacifist who wants to just play on his phone and doesn't want to attack anybody and let Germany not have any guys on his border and take over the rest of the world. And we've had a game like that before, and then Russia finally realizes, well, you know what, I'm bored. It's 1944. I got all these jet fighters and heavy tanks and stuff, so I'm just gonna steamroll right through Germany all the way to Berlin with all my super expensive boutique items because I've never fought in a war yet and I haven't lost a unit anywhere, and every penny I ever had is placed on the map and rolling forward. That's about the only time that War Plan Z would be handy. All right, as is, yeah. You need to get that minimum purchase per turn thing eliminated. It's just no good. But the sculpts and whatever, excellent. Use them. And this SS is just like that, right? I mean, it's just like you know, you can use what you want. You don't have to. I really like what he's done here, where he's you know, when it's going to be a certain thing, right? He's got it glued on there. That way, you know, he knows it's this unit. It's always this unit, right? So he's got certain guys he uses for certain things, right? Like this is a mountain unit, so it's glued on, mountain sculpt glued on to this specific SS. So he always knows that this mountain one is, you know, a mountain. So there it is. It's stuck together. This was an excellent addition, and the only negative I have for it is it kind of makes things tight, right? As you can see, right? Normally, if you had two dudes, these are two mountain dudes. They're two mountain SS, and they're side by side, so they take up 2 spaces, right? Now, if they were just regular mountain guys, you just put a chip underneath them, and you'd a counter chip underneath, and you have 2, right? So in tight spaces, it was kind of an issue, which is part of why Berlin was sitting on a card over here for most of the game. But it's because there's so many things in there, right? All right, what else do I have to say? SS, I would definitely pick that up. Oil Wars, a lot of fun. Play the game a couple times maybe and tweak some of the roles in it. It's a really cool thing. I thought I was going to really change the game, and I found out that by playing it that maybe we just played too conservatively for the first 3 turns on our oil moves. But when you're playing the 36 scenario, by the time you hit 39, the oil's not an issue, and it's never going to be for the rest of the game. So that was unfortunate. I was hoping it was going to be more an issue, but it's pretty much only going to be an issue if you're already backed into a corner and somebody's throwing tomatoes at you and you haven't eaten in 3 days. You know, Germany, when it lost lost France, and it's starting to turtle, and Poland's gone, and Romania's gone, and everybody's coming in at you. Well, yeah, you're gonna not have enough oil, maybe, but you don't have enough money for troops either. Either way, you're dead, so it doesn't really matter. All right. What other things do we have for expansions in here? I think that was it. Well, yeah, we also did a modified version of the Spanish Civil War, just because that full intervention was just too much with all the other stuff we were doing. And honestly, I still think that the Spanish Civil War, I mean, it's a nice distraction for Germany and Russia while you got nothing going on, and you're playing the 36 game. But I think we need to add like a dollar value to these land zones or something, or have them actually use money, because this hokiness of the recruitment rolls, it just doesn't feel right. Anyway, you know, it's enjoyable at the same time, but it's just, it feels like it's almost there, but it's missing something. I can't quite put my finger on what it's missing. It's just not quite, just doesn't quite work. And that's all the time. I mean, it's okay, but it's more, it's not really worth enough to make it something to invest that much time and effort on. Especially money, leasing money there from Russia. Like, you're making $8 a turn. You know, you can't even afford to make 3 infantry. So why are you sending one of your infantry down to Spain? Like, really? I mean, I was doing it this turn just so that he didn't get the point. That was the whole point. So he doesn't get a point, and so that when we split, then we could do our thing. Another thing, we were playing with that new rule where Russia wasn't allowed to do anything with South America, and man, I cannot stand that change. Right? I mean, fine, right? You don't want America to be brought into war by that. Fine, don't. Turn South America into an aligned minor of America and it's fighting Russia down there. That I can handle, right? But the fact that Russia can't do anything, you want it to be a third alliance, but then you want it to only be allowed to fight against the Axis. So what the heck is it? Right? It's not a true third alliance if you can't attack the Allies or get the Allies into the war without Berlin falling. If you need Berlin to fall, then all you're doing is railroading me into a choose-your-own-adventure with only one choice. I've read that book before. It's not that exciting. So I really dislike that rule change. And yeah, that's my 2 cents. I'm going to end up house ruling that rule change out. I've already house ruled the old rule change out, but for these videos and when we're playing with somebody from out of town, you know, we want to, and we're putting out a video on it, we're going to play the actual rules of the game. You know, just like most of these points we don't use. But, you know, they're good. It's just, you know, the last turn turned into a real gamey game again, trying to go, oh, I'm going to do this gamey thing. You know, like, Russia would never attack like it did here, just trying to get some points away from Germany. I would have held back some of my units, right? Prepared a defense. I wouldn't have left myself wide open for an attack from Romania there, would you? No. Attack here, I wipe myself out killing a stack. Would you do that? No. Right? Yeah. If I would have just done my creeping wall of death like I was doing and kept on building up units to it and kept Germany busy so that USA and everybody else could have come in on the backside. But we were running out of time of the game, and it was starting to get time to get points, so everybody started doing some gamey stuff where they didn't build anything. They went full tilt and attacks, and crazy attacks, right? Why the heck would I ever do this? Attack in here, and only to I increased the border, right? Why? I could have brought these guys up here, and I would have got the same amount of points, right? But I wanted to go in here so I could get myself that extra point over here. It was just for a point. It's worth $1. I got a point. You know, kind of gamey. Yeah. But, you know what? Yeah, you got to win the game somehow. Anyway, so yeah, I had a great game. Enjoyed the heck out of having General Hand Grenade over. Enjoyed the heck out of having my brother Moose over. Enjoyed the heck out of having Brad over. I don't care that it cost me a little bit of money and food. And have all the inconvenience of people coming over and staying in my house over the night and all that stuff. That's fine. And my family seems to be okay with it. I mean, they're happy that I'm happy, right? So there we go. So everybody had a great time, I think. At least they said so. So that's good. That was long though. 3 days is long. If I could do it again, if I could do it another way, if it wasn't like an 8-hour drive to get to his place, you know, if we could do, say, you know, once a month, play a day or maybe a day and a half over a weekend and then go home and do it again. But I mean, you got an 8-hour drive one way, it's 16-hour round trip. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous, right? So yeah. So we crammed it all into 3 days, which is great. 3 days is good, but you know, it's 3 long days, and I need a fifth player would be perfect. That way, you know, you access on this side, access on that side. You can take a break in between, right? We would have done that, but like I was saying earlier, the Allies players both had to work on these days, 3 days that we were playing at different times, and kind of had to pinch hit for each other. In fact, the first day here, for the first 5 or 6 turns, I didn't know if I was going to be in Russia, the Allies, or what. So I was all of them at the same time. All right, well, there you go. There's my observations of the game. Liked it, a lot of fun. Really like this Super Yamamoto sculpt he's got here. Yep, the A150 Super Yamamoto. Cool sculpt. We don't have it out here anymore, but he's got a whole bunch of sculpts from the American game we're using. I think I'm gonna have to pick that up. I was gonna do a paint job, maybe a refloor in this room, but that's way more important. And then we got this Iowa class ship, or I'm not sure what it is exactly, but it looks like a 3D printed unit here. We were using that as the Iowa class ship. Yeah, really like that. So he's got some nice sculpts here that we were using. Very nice of him to have those and bring them along so we can try them out along with the expansion packs. Most of the expansions I have are something that I mean, most of them I already have all the pieces, so all I need really is the roundels and the markers. So I mean, it's hard to buy an expansion when I already have, you know, I got a ton of British and American extra pieces, you know. Don't give me more. I don't want any more. You know, when I was first starting out, I would have taken them, but now that I have a bunch of stuff, you know, I don't need that stuff anymore. Bought too much. All right, well, yeah, there we go. I'm starting to ramble on because it's like 12:30 at night, and yeah, I'm really tired, so I'm gonna shut it down. And yeah, might not put this video up till tomorrow, but yeah, my thoughts on this game, a lot of fun. It was great. Oil Wars needs some tweaking, or we missed a rule somewhere, but I mean, we all read it through, and it followed it by the letter of the law there, and yeah, I think we need to do a tweak to the rules here. It's a little bit, it was a little bit of a non-issue. Commanders loved it. Highly recommend it. I need to go pick it up myself now. Yeah, I would have liked to do the partisans, but we only had 3 days, and with all the partisan rolls we would have been doing all over the places that were attacked and whatever, it would have been too much, and we would just end up about halfway through the game just not doing any more rolls, because, you know, 2 days straight of doing partisan rolls that are taking half an hour. Yeah, fun, but not fun at that point. All right. There you go. I'll leave you there. Bye.